What's happening, everybody? Welcome to the lab. I'm your host, Joshua Diaz. It is great to see you. Great to be here. We have an exciting show for you. Some new information coming out in the Nancy Guthrie case, and it to me it seems like a very telling situation. And I have a great guest here with me, and also my good friend, Chris McDonough of the Interview Room. By the way, fantastic show on the Interview Room tonight with Anjanette Levy and Karen McDonough. So congratulations to them for a show well done.
Yeah, that I was very proud of her and them. She did really well.
Was she nervous doing it?
Yeah, I've been trying for years to get her to come more in front of the camera, but my sweetheart is very humble, and she just does. I mean, you've talked to her 100 times on the phone, so
100 times.
Yeah, she doesn't really talk a lot about herself, but it was fun. It was great to watch her, and I've told her, I said, look, you should do, just a girls' night thing, and you can follow your own leads, your own heart, and let her do her thing. And tonight was a perfect example of what she's capable of.
Yeah, I have no idea how you got such a pretty
wife. You're muted. I just lost you. I don't know what happened.
Hold on 1 second. Can you hear me?
Is that him or me, guys? Lab rats. How you doing, lab rats?
Hold on.
Oh, you're back.
Can you hear me?
We can now. Now you're all over the place.
Right, what about now?
Yeah, you're back. You're back.
Okay. I was going to say, I still have no idea how you got such a pretty wife.
I haven't either. Trust me.
Yeah, good for you.
Yep.
Good for you. She's
lucky.
She's very smart, man. So it was just a lot of fun to listen, and Anjanette as well. So very cool. And but thanks for being here. Bob Gilliam will join us here in a little bit. He'll pop on here, and I believe John and Gary are MIA at the moment, so we'll reconvene with them later this week. But breaking news, Chris. I mean, that's really what it is.
I just sent you the article for Reuters. Did you see that?
I just got it. Let me.
Yeah, this is big.
It's something. I did not see this.
Well, I said from the very first week, I said the notes are going to be noise. So let's see what they say.
Let me read this. Let me bring it up here. I have to subscribe.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, but that's fine.
Well, it's not just pulling up?
No, it's behind a paywall.
Oh, wow. You're kidding.
That's all right. It's not a big deal.
Oh, I see what's up. Okay.
Sorry about that. It's fine. I just got to
while you're doing that, we'll get a buddy check. He's right here, sound asleep, next to me. During the show with Karen, it was so funny. He was sitting underneath me, licking my feet. Oh my gosh, he's licking my feet again.
Why does he do that?
Dogs do that to scent. And you know what it does? It calms them down, and they can also, through their sensory glands, they get information about you.
Really?
Yeah, your mood, everything. And it releases, the love hormone, in them.
Otis tries to stick his nose in my ear. But he doesn't. It's weird. He doesn't lick at all. Otis does not lick anything other than something that's like on the floor. He's disgusting. But what he does is he takes his nose and he tries to jam it into my ear. It's very disconcerting and off-putting, to be honest with you. Okay, so
Just a sign of love. They love you.
I love him too, but he needs to keep his nose out of my ear. Okay, so let me bring this up that way. I wonder if I'll get in trouble if I share it.
I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, it's yours once you buy it.
It's true. Okay, let me.
Reuters is where everybody rips it off, but I don't know. That's out of my pay grade.
Yeah, I have no idea either. But I can just.
This was a great Tumblr. One of my subscribers gave this to me.
I need one of those. My mic is muffled.
That's Otis sticking his nose in your ear.
Hold on.
Well, he's doing that. How's everybody doing out there? I guess I kicked a hornet's nest last night, huh? It was kind of funny this morning. I was on Nancy Grace, and just before we started, Nancy goes, "Hey, McDonough." I said, "Hello, Miss Nancy." She goes, "Yeah, I heard you kicked the FBI last night." I said, "What? How did you know?" She goes, "Well, I was watching Twitter this morning, and you blew it up." I said,
everybody knows.
I said, "Yeah,
yeah, everybody knows." Okay, is this any better?
Yeah, that's great.
You can hear it clear.
Yeah, you sound great.
All right, cool. So let me just summarize.
While you're teeing it up. Yeah, go ahead.
So let me just summarize it. So it says FBI determined, this is from Reuters by Jana Winter and Steve Gorman. FBI determines Nancy Guthrie kidnapping notes to be fake, sources say. So disjunta. All three kidnapping related messages that have surfaced in the news media reports about the disappearance of Today Show co-host Savannah Guthrie's elderly mother, have been deemed by federal investigators to be fake communications, an FBI official told Reuters on Tuesday. The FBI's assessment of the inauthenticity pertains to the two ransom notes reported in early February, days after 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie vanished, and a third, more recent message from someone claiming to know the kidnappers' identities, the officials said. A spokesperson, hold on. Quote, "None of the ransom notes are believed to be genuine," the FBI official told Reuters, speaking on conditions of anonymity to discuss details of an active investigation. A second law enforcement source familiar with the matter confirmed the FBI's assessment of the ransom notes. The disclosure that the FBI has discontinued the veracity of the three notes, two of which were widely reported to have been communications from kidnappers, seemed to raise doubts about investigators' fundamental premise that Nancy Guthrie was abducted for ransom to begin with. All three messages in question were initially delivered to various media outlets, including celebrity news site TMZ.com, before they were turned over to authorities for review. Savannah Guthrie, longtime co-anchor of NBC morning news program Today, has referenced ransom demands in video messages, and she and her siblings have posted on social media urging kidnappers to open a direct line of communication with her family and pleading for her mother's return, saying in one video, "We will pay." The elder Guthrie, who has been in frail health with limited mobility, was last seen alive at her home in Tucson, Arizona on January 31st after spending an evening with her older daughter, Annie, and son-in-law. The FBI, which has taken the lead in examining any purported ransom notes or other communications from suspects in the case, had previously declined to say publicly whether the messages under review were considered credible. Investigators determined that the two originated from the same sender, the officials told Reuters, though how that conclusion was drawn was not specified. The first note, according to TMZ, demanded a sum in the millions to be paid in cryptocurrency and set two deadlines for payment on February 5th and February 9th. The second note was reported by NBC News last week to have referenced to Guthrie at that point having died without making an apology or demanding any payment for the return of the body. In a bid to test the authenticity of the first note and possibly trace the ransom demands back to the perpetrators, the FBI early on deposited a small amount of cryptocurrency into an account as instructed in the message, but the money was left untouched in the account and never taken, the official said. It was on the basis by an unspecified means that the FBI reached the conclusion that the two ransom notes that it determined to be of common origin were nevertheless sent by a person or persons not actually connected with Guthrie's disappearance, according to the official. The FBI has additionally discounted the authenticity of a third note that TMZ reported it received last week from someone claiming to know the identities of Nancy Guthrie's abductors and to have had video of, quote, the main guy involved in her kidnapping as well as the victim on the day she died. The FBI official did not reveal how investigators ruled out the third note as fake. Reacting to last week's ransom note headlines from NBC News, the home of Network of Today, Savannah Guthrie took time on her show to appeal to the public again for answers for the fate of her mother, urging anyone who might know something to come forward. Guthrie also reminds viewers of the $1 million reward being offered by her family, whom she described as being in agony since her mother vanished. Authorities confirmed soon after her disappearance that the DNA test showed the blood found on Nancy Guthrie's front porch came from her. Media attention on the case has waned considerably since mid-February when the sheriff and FBI released surveillance footage of an armed prowler in a ski mask shown tampering with Nancy Guthrie's doorbell camera shortly before she was abducted. But DNA samples obtained from a glove found near the home and resembling the pair of the prowler was seen wearing failed to produce a match against known genetic profiles in the national database. Savannah Guthrie later said her family was still blowing on the embers of hope that her mother was still alive, while also acknowledging she may already be gone. So they're fake, apparently, according to the FBI. All notes and communication are hoaxes, according to them, and that they've cemented that, which means that Nancy Guthrie was not taken for a ransom, which means that the notion that this was put out there into the ether, whoever started this was wrong.
But that takes care of the wrench attack.
That's out.
So we take that off the plate. As I said, within the first week, the notes are noise. And so now that also calls into question the phone call.
It calls, Chris, it calls everything into question. Everything that has been publicly stated about this case is, all the assumptions that you were working on, that this was for money, that this is a ransom, that she was not. I mean, this has the feel of just a straight up homicide.
Well, yeah, and that's interesting. It comes 2 days before Kallela is sentenced or his plea deal is up. What's going to be in those records? That's going to be, as I've said in the very beginning, you've got to follow the bouncing ball. And, you can't go into the weeds. And again, I'm not, I didn't come on here tonight to say, hey, look at me in any way, shape, or form. The reason I'm here, number one, you invited me. Number two, I think it was, the bouncing ball is pretty clear. And when you have actually followed bouncing balls in your career, then you've seen noise like this on many occasions and you don't get caught up in it. Okay. And so, let's see where this is going to go. But it now you have to ask yourself another big, huge question, another bouncing ball. How did the brother know that it was a kidnap for ransom? And he presented that as a motive for the disappearance of his mother to his sister, who went on national television and said, "Is it me?" And he says, "Yes, sweetie, it could be." So my question is, who told him that it was a kidnap for ransom? Because I don't think Cameron pulled that out of the air.
I don't think so either. I think that this is just speculation, but I think he heard it from somewhere.
Correct.
Somebody, I would say fed it to him, but sort of put that out in the ether. Look, the fact of the matter is Nancy Guthrie has a very rich daughter. Very rich. She's got a lot of money, and it would be advantageous of somebody to, it would make sense. The thing is, it wouldn't make sense to take her for ransom. She's not a target. Dr. Gary has said that as well. You have said that as well. She's not a target of ransom. She's not a good target for that. Not that there's any good targets, but you understand what I'm saying. She makes no sense in the grand scheme of the victimology of somebody who's going to be taken for ransom. She's not in good health. She doesn't have particularly a lot of money herself. Dealing with cryptocurrency, it just none of it really has made any sense. And when there was no proof of life, this is something that we've all discussed and you've discussed on the interview room since the beginning. This is not how ransoms work. Ransoms work with, and I know this sounds weird to say, but there is a somewhat of a good faith system. People who kidnap people that are in the business of kidnapping them want to keep people in relatively good health. They want to have a good line of communication. They don't want to make waves. They don't want to make news. They want to make money, and they want to get done with this. as fast as possible. So the fact that it had gone on and on and on, that there were two different ransom demands. If you don't pay by this day, we're going to tack on another 2 million. It's almost like putting a tattoo on, like layaway. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I only got to make a few more payments for this tattoo and we'll be good to go. It makes no sense to me. And I don't think it made any sense to you either. What you do in a ransom situation is that you do operate on a good faith system and you do show proof of life. It's just how it's always worked. I had a caller call in with Dr. Gary and I were doing a show, and he was like, they should have just paid it. I said, pay what? Pay who? Without proof of life, you don't pay anything. I mean, is that how you feel about it?
Yeah. I mean, that's common, hostage negotiations 101. That you don't, families can pay it, but again, they're encouraged not to until they know for sure that their family members are alive. And because then you're just giving, the next person the opportunity to take somebody else in your family and kill them.
How so they didn't specify in the article. They didn't specify how they knew that it was fake, but do you have a thought on how they came to that conclusion?
Well, I think it was, for me, thinking through this, again, my thought process was immediate when I heard the narrative that the sheriff had presented. And that narrative, I found 50 gaps in it. And so for me, in order to even focus on the other stuff, the Bitcoin notes and, all this other garbage that was floating around there, I immediately, I said, that's noise. And that just comes from experience. Where, you walk out of a crime scene and there's 13 satellite trucks staring at you. And you just learn that, okay, that's noise. I gotta follow the bouncing ball here and stay with it. And there has only been one narrative coming out of that house. One. And that narrative has come from the daughter and the son-in-law. Maybe the Uber driver and probably some of the victims' girlfriends. But the victims' girlfriends only count to a certain point, meaning, what were you doing? What were you supposed to do? Did it happen? Okay. Yes, no. All right, thank you very much. Then what did you do? The moment they called the sister, okay, the moment they called the sister, then everything from that point forward is a family narrative. Everything. Unless somebody else has another point. I mean, even at CrimeCon, Nancy Grace called me out, up on the stage. And I was like, okay, not a problem. I mean, I'm used to it. But I said early on, well, that's all noise. So if you guys want to believe it, that's up to you guys. I'm not losing any sleep over that, because if this was my case, I wouldn't have chased that garbage. I wouldn't have gone down that lane. Just think about, what did it turn into? It turned into an FBI profiler saying, well, the person that wrote those notes is punishing Savannah. The person that did, by the way, whatever. Okay. Well, guess what? Today, they're all wrong. They're all wrong. I felt that from the moment I heard it, because I hadn't heard other things that, folks that have actually, again, not to kick a dead horse, that have actually done the job and stood over people at 3 o'clock in the morning go, well, that doesn't sound right. But I'll let you keep going down that lane as long as you want to keep going down there. Okay, but the people that make noise over here are just equal to the notes. They're equal to the notes. Okay? There's not a kidnapper in the world that if they've kidnapped an 84-year-old woman, is going to write a letter of an apology. Says, hey, I just wanted to let you know I took her out of the house 2 o'clock in the morning. I didn't know how bad her heart was. I'm so sorry. Oh, and by the way, the watch and all this other stuff. Well, anybody, if there are other things involved here, anybody could go walk into that house and say, yeah, the note or the watch is here, the watch is there, and the light's down here. You know, the other thing I've always felt that was just totally weird is that doggone back floodlight. Who in their right mind is going to tear the floodlight off as a gesture to say, yeah, I was there. I tore the floodlight off.
That's a great point. I never thought about that. I have no idea.
Who does that? Career criminals don't do these things. Unsophisticated amateurs do these things. They wear the gun backwards. They buy the clothing at Walmart. They do all that kind of stuff where you go, wait a minute. Could this be a murder for hire? And I've talked about that, you know, as a possibility here. You know, who? I have no idea. It's not up for me. It's not up for me. But could it be? And the answer is absolutely yes. All right. And yes, I mean, when you go back and you look and hey, Bobby, when you go back and you look at some of the first panels that we did, all of us were in sync with the bouncing ball. And we've had the questions from the very beginning. Wait a minute. I'm not of the camp that the blood was staged. I'm not of that camp. I think it's legit. I think she got hurt. She fell. I am of the camp. Obviously, there's more than one person that took her out of that house, or at least are involved in this. I think there's a minimum of 2. And so that piece of the puzzle for me is solid. I don't like the door. I don't like, you know, the note that says, yeah, the watch was off. This was off. That was off. The lights were torn off and all this other stuff. Hocus pocus. Hocus pocus. Because if somebody had time to get back in that house before she was discovered and before the law enforcement agencies were called, that's why I focused on that timeline so critically and the garage door data points. Those garage door data points are critical. Now we're seeing that, okay, the notes are fake. The FBI's come out and they've said it. And now what? What's left? What's left is the narrative.
And who started it?
Where did it come from? What did the first deputies on the scene hear? What did they see? And how does that fit with the scenario in its totality? And that is going to be, you know, either the maker or the breaker. So was somebody hired? I don't know. Could it be? I'm not going to be surprised if they end up hooking up, you know, we'll just call him the thug, the guy on the porch.
Yeah, right.
But we don't know who the other players are going to be.
And so, and Bob, thanks for being here. Welcome. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me, Josh.
Yeah, awesome.
Chris, good to see you. Good to be with you both and everyone in the chat. And of course, your awesome mods, Josh.
Yeah, they are awesome. They do a great job here. And especially when Chris is on, you know, because
you don't have to tell him. He knows. You don't have to say a word.
But so you've heard the news, or have you not?
Well, I was out with some buddies having
There
a
you go.
beverage and watching a little baseball, and just got home and I just fixed a real light bite to eat, and that's when I got your text.
Yeah.
So,
So Reuters, I'll just run it down for you really quick. Reuters is reporting from an FBI source that, and also another independent source as well, that all three notes have been deemed to be fake in the Nancy Guthrie case. All of them. The first two, and then the one claiming that somebody had video that she's dead. All those things. They're all now deemed by the FBI, who's in charge of this aspect of the investigation, that they're noise, that they're fake. Any reaction or thoughts to that?
well, yeah, I'm not surprised at that. Quite frankly, I didn't put a lot of stock in any of these notes, any of the ransom notes from the first ones, even though Um, Savannah apparently was told by the FBI that they believed that the first two may have been good, or they may have been um, from the abductors, but and so these most recent ones, the ones that TMZ has been highlighting recently, I just don't put a lot of stock in that. Um, why? Why isn't the abductor going for the 1.2 million instead of one Bitcoin? I mean, that's the biggest question that I have. So it just doesn't make sense to me, and just does not ring true to me. And so I don't put a lot of stock in it.
Yeah, yeah, and so and another thing. So basically, the way that I see this is that if she is dead, and I still believe that she is, I believe that she died either
Mhm.
during the commission of the crime or after or whatever it was. That this is not necessarily, this isn't a ransom abduction. This is a homicide.
I agree. I think it's exactly what Gary says, or at least Gary is positing that it could be, not positively, but it could be an elimination murder, and I agree with that. I think that's very accurate, Chris. We've all talked about it, and we all have not ruled that out as a possibility. And I'm still there. I'm absolutely there.
And also, this is the timing of this is very interesting because we are within just days of Kalala and his guilty plea that he's changing from not
Mhm.
guilty to guilty. Um, is is there any I mean, in your humble opinion, is there any correlation here? Uh, Either one of you, I'm curious.
Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I don't think either one of us would take it off the table right now without, I mean, we'll know on Thursday if there is any type of linkage. The fact that this comes out 2 days before his court hearing is extremely interesting because somebody in the investigation that told the Reuters, and and again, let's look at the source of who's talking here. It's not the Pima County Sheriff's Office. According to Reuters, they have two sources in the FBI in the investigation that released this information. Well, okay, so what does that mean? Right now, for me anyway, I find it rather interesting that it may go along with some of the theories we've talked about in the beginning of this thing, that, this guy just kind of popped up out of nowhere in Hawthorne. And all of a sudden, he's in the middle of the biggest investigation since the Lindbergh baby.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah, a crazy
Yeah.
idea.
So Kalila is either really involved in this or he has no involvement at all. And I think we're going to learn a lot more on the second, as Chris just indicated, because um, in a change of plea hearing in the federal courts, that's going to require that the prosecutor give an information that would prove some guilt, and what they would reveal during a trial, or if a trial took place. So it's an information that that they would reveal if Kalala actually went to trial with a jury. And so, and generally those are pretty extensive. I've sat in on probably a couple of hundred of these change of plea hearings, and so they can be very extensive. And I think we'll learn a lot more. If it is very, very limited, then that might tell us something too. And it might tell us, I don't want to talk too much about Kalila, but it might tell us something different. If it is very detailed, then I would say that he's probably not involved.
That's a
And
great
Chris
point.
knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, they will keep as much under wraps as they can while this investigation is going on. Less is more.
Yeah, as they should. I mean, we've all said that. It's it's a little bit of a dilemma to come on and talk about this live on YouTube and spill the beans, and that's not what any of us are trying to do. But um, we're just gonna. I hate to say it this way, but we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens on the 2nd of July, because I think at the end of the day, we're going to know a lot more, because undoubtedly those hearings are open to the public. Now they can seal them, but I don't think that they'll seal them. If they do seal that hearing, it's going to be very, very telling. Okay. So, we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
So let me just reset this a little bit for the people that are just coming in, because we had there's a few thousand more people here now, and I'm going to go over the highlights of the Reuters article that was just released not too long ago at all.
Less than 2 hours.
Yeah, just a couple hours. I mean, it's brand new. Okay, so Reuters reported all three kidnapping related messages that have surfaced in news media reports about the disappearance of Today's Show co-host Savannah Guthrie's elderly mother have been deemed by federal investigators to be fake communications, an FBI official told Reuters on Tuesday. The FBI assessment of the inauthenticity pertains to 2 ransom notes reported in early February, days after 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie vanished, and a third, more recent message from someone claiming to know the kidnappers' identities, the official said. None of the ransom notes are believed to be genuine, the FBI official told Reuters, speaking on conditions of anonymity to discuss details of an active investigation. A second law enforcement source familiar with the matter confirmed the FBI's assessment of the ransom notes. The disclosure that the FBI has discounted the veracity of the 3 notes, 2 of which were widely reported to have been communications from kidnappers, seemed to raise doubts about investigators' fundamental premise that Nancy Guthrie was abducted for a ransom to begin with. A spokesperson for the Pima County Sheriff's Department, which is leading the overall investigation, declined to comment, citing its agreement to refer all inquiries regarding ransom notes to the FBI. We don't have any updates other than this is still an active investigation. The sheriff's spokesperson, now he's using spokespeople. It's good. Angelica Carello said,
Gotta love him.
He's learning, man. He's on the job training. Good for him.
It's the Nanos effect.
He had to do it.
That will forever go down, Bob. That one right there.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. She added the DNA samples and video evidence collected in the case remain under forensic analysis. All three messages in question were initially delivered to various media outlets, including celebrity news sites, TMZ.com, before they were turned over to authorities for review. Savannah Guthrie, 54, longtime co-anchor of NBC morning news program Today, has referenced ransom demands and video messages she and her siblings have posted on social media urging kidnappers to open a direct line of communication with her family and pleading for her mother's return, saying in one video, we will pay. Now, it would be interesting, and we don't know this information, but it would be interesting to know when they sort of came up with this, fleshed out theory that these notes, these communications were fake, they were false, just hoaxes. Obviously, it is something that you would have to initially look into, but the question is, and remains now, everything still is inside the house. Everything that was outside, all the outside questions, all go away now. Meaning, there are no communications from the actual kidnappers, or we don't even know if there are actual kidnappers. We don't know if she was taken for whatever reason. We don't know if she was killed in the house and taken out of the house. All bets are off here, and it's basically square one. Would you agree with that, Chris?
Well, I mean, we haven't left square one. All the other stuff, like you're just talking about, it just doesn't, it didn't make any sense. It makes no sense when, you can't provide the point of entry into a home publicly for, which is common sense information that you would want to provide the family, or not only the family, but to the public about the family. They got there at a certain time. They saw the doors open and they went inside through the garage, the front door or the back door. And once they got inside, they discovered that their mother was missing. Next question, please. Well, what door did they go in? He had an opportunity to answer that many times. And guess what he kept doing? He kept dodging it. Well, there's a reason for that. Okay. And then of course, you go to the second piece of this communication line here, following the bouncing ball, was, well, did they call 911? Yeah. Are you going to release the 911 call? No. Well, how did the family get in? We're not going to talk about that. Why did you impound their car? Normal, routine, investigative procedure. Next question. That's not normal, routine, investigative procedure. Anybody that's ever worked these cases, like Bob and I and others, immediately that was a huge red flag. We went, wait a minute. Are you telling us you just impounded the family car? The one that allegedly drove her over the night before and dropped it off? Huh, that's interesting. And then, you just keep following that bouncing ball, and it takes you into the house with a guy with a U-Fed wearing an ICAC shirt. Well, that didn't make sense. But according to Nanos, we called everybody out, including ICAC, just to help in the investigation. So that created a second train, a whole nother train that was happening behind the scenes. And those of us who have done the job understood it and saw it for what it was. And so this other stuff, wrench attacks and, cartels and all this other stuff, is just noise. And we said it. All of us said it. It sounds like noise. Just didn't make sense. So we're back to square one. Go ahead.
And this is different coming from Reuters than it is TMZ, or Reuters is widely considered one of the most credible and unbiased news organizations in the world. I mean, they really have been for a long time. They are factually based, and they're not going to put this out there if they weren't actually talking to an FBI agent familiar with the case. They just wouldn't. Now, I'm surprised.
They're going to suck a lot of lemons if this is bogus information. Trust
Well,
me.
I'm surprised. Oh, I agree. But Reuters, it's we were talking. I believe what was it, the Blum guy that we were talking about last night? Was
He's
that
a
his name?
reliable source.
No, he's not. But he's had some reliable information before. He's also the same guy that reported that Brian Koberger had all 4 of the victims that he killed's IDs in you remember that report? Yeah, that was the same guy. Reuters is different. They really, really are. So everybody kind of follows their lead. That's why everybody is reporting on this now. Everybody's running with it because Reuters has put out there. But I am shocked. And Bob, you tell me if you are, that an FBI source, do you think that this was directed, or do you think that this is just somebody saying, look, we need to cut all this out. We need to cut this noise out and let people know that there's nothing to this.
Well, first of all, Reuters is part of the legacy media. And frankly, I don't necessarily trust the legacy media. Now, Reuters might be a little more unbiased in a true crime situation than they are in other situations. But I don't put a lot of stock in the fact that it's being reported by Reuters. I would probably put more stock in this and I'm not saying it's false. I hope it's true, because I don't think that this case is overly complicated. So, but I would put just as much, if not more, stock in this being reported by a non-legacy media source, whether it's legacy media, whether it's certainly not one of the alphabet media groups, but even a YouTuber. I would put more stock in that than I would anything from Reuters or the legacy media. So I have a huge distrust, as you can see. That said, as I mentioned, I hope it's true what they're reporting. We heard from Yahoo News that Savannah Guthrie had hired private investigators, former FBI agents, as private investigators to assist in the case. And that turns out not to be true. And you would think that Yahoo News would be well-sourced and credible, but it turns out that report was not credible. Correct?
Well, and I'm not disagreeing with you. Mainstream media is mainstream media. The difference with Reuters is, though, that there's a gaggle of watchdog groups that rate these news media outlets. Yahoo is actually probably in the middle of the pack. ABC, CNN, Fox, all of them kind of rated, in the middle of the pack. Reuters is at the top. By most watchdog groups, they say that they're factually based, that they're politically central, and that they've led the way in accurate reporting for years. So I'm not saying that they can't be wrong, and I'm not saying that that's not possible.
They own LexisNexis as well. That the intelligence groups and the fusion centers that law enforcement uses.
Yeah, I've used LexisNexis. Yeah.
So Reuters owns them. Thomson Reuters.
Okay, so let's say that the reports are credible. This case is not that complicated, I don't believe. And we've heard ad nauseum that this is Occam's razor, and I get that, and I don't disagree with that at all. Yeah. So that said, I don't want to overly speculate
Sure.
on what I think. I mean, I've been very vocal, as we all have in this case, and I don't want to repeat myself and just regurgitate old stuff, but um, this, you know, on July 2nd, we're going to know a lot more about this case, I think. And knowing a lot more could be something such as, well, we don't think Colella is involved in the abduction, or Colella might be really involved in the abduction. We just don't know. And to speculate beyond that, I think is just a bunch of white noise, quite frankly. And I don't want to oversimplify this thing, but um, the all of the talking heads are picking and poking and trying to find something to talk about with reference to Guthrie, and it's just not there yet. I Now I do believe, and I've said this all along, this is not a cold case in my opinion. They are working suspects. It's going to take time. Chris, you've said this. I know John has said this, and others. I don't put a lot of stock in the DNA solving this case. Now, it might turn out that DNA does solve the case,
Yeah, I
but
agree with you.
I just don't put as much stock in it as the so-called mainstream news media is. And I think this is going to come down to good old-fashioned gumshoe, boots on the ground, as we've all said, basic police work that is going to solve this case. And I think the FBI and the Pima County detectives on the task force are working in that direction, and I think it's coming. I can't say when because I don't know, but it's coming, and I'm confident in that.
Yeah, I mean, you've said for ever since I've had you on the show and been watching you on the interview room that you never believed that this was a cold case, and I don't think Chris, I don't think you've believed that either. But the thing with what makes this, I guess, substantial, if true, and I believe that the FBI believes that. But is there any chance that they're wrong here?
On the notes?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look at the source as a whole, right? I mean, it was directly from the FBI, but it was from Kash Patel, so you know that was legit. Who released the porch video and the camera shots? So we know that's legit. We had an FBI source who told a journalist that, yeah, they're focusing on this family member. We don't know where that stands because the sheriff comes right behind that and says, no, there's nothing to see here, move along. Okay? And now we have this source that comes out almost, as a reliable source, quote unquote, to a mainstream, just think of Reuters as a ticker tape, and all the newspapers around the country rip off the stories from that ticker tape. They all subscribe to it. Okay. And, so you'll see all the articles tomorrow that come off of Reuters. They're going to be exactly almost verbatim in all the newspapers around the country. So for Reuters to go out on a limb like this, that's a big deal. That is a really big deal, to Bob's point.
Yeah.
And so now then we're left with, okay, if it's true and these notes are just, bogus, which we have felt they were from the beginning, well, then that takes, number one, in the public side, it takes a lot of narratives off the plate. Okay? It takes, the ransom abduction. So no longer are we thinking about that the sophistication of the guy on the porch was connected to this cabal of ransom holders, okay, where they're going to communicate, hold Nancy, and then subsequently somehow she dies in their custody et cetera, et cetera. And the suspect sends this letter of apology / hey, I'm so sorry, we didn't know her health conditions were all this other stuff. Well, that's actually really strong evidence towards a sophisticated concept that says, well, wait a minute, did the actual people that did this crime, did they write that as a distraction?
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, okay, then fine. How does the guy in Hawthorne play into this, if in any way, shape, or form, like Bob is talking about? Well, number one, he's been an anomaly from the very beginning. The very first day I saw and read the affidavit, I thought, something's wrong here. Why is this guy going out of his way to send 2 text messages to 2 people that aren't even in the news? Okay? Meaning one of the 2, specifically Tommaso. What did Tommaso have to do with Annie, Savannah, and Cameron sitting on a couch reading a letter in any way, shape, or form? That would be like sending, well, why didn't you just send a letter to Cameron's wife? Why didn't you send a letter to Savannah's husband? Maybe the ex-husband, I don't know. Why didn't you send a text message to any of those people? They're just as simple to look up on an open source intelligence search. You could go to People Search or anything like that. You go to TLO, any of these sources that you are open source intel, and you can get a phone number. But why didn't you do that? Why didn't he do that in any way, shape, or form? So that piece of the puzzle has always been a simple analogy of an anomaly. And you can either put him in the circle or take him out of the circle pretty quickly. The FBI decided to put him in the circle quickly. And guess what happened? He became the noise. He disappeared. Over here. Nothing to see here. Move along. Meanwhile, he made a 9-second phone call to a family member, quote unquote, out of the affidavit. I read it again today. Well, who did he call? Did he call Cameron? Did he call Savannah? Did he call Tommaso? Did he call Annie? Who did he call? We know he talked to somebody within 2 minutes of sending the text message and asking, did you get the Bitcoin? We're waiting at our end. But he called somebody for 9 seconds. So that link analysis is still going to come out, I think, in the courtroom that Bob's talking about. However, if it doesn't come out in the courtroom, that's a red flag.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, if this hearing is, all hearings are open to the public unless a judge, for a myriad of reasons, deems that they should be closed. And it's possible that this is going to be a closed hearing, and we won't know until the morning of the hearing. But if that happens, okay, let's roll, because we've got a situation here that's going to really get interesting. If it's open to the public, and the U.S. Attorney's Office posits a very mundane report of what would happen if this case goes to trial, then that I'm still going to perk up then. But if they give us a lot of details, and the details point that Mr. Colella is not involved in the abduction, then okay, let's move on. Then we're going to,
No, and I
so
agree with Bob.
Yeah. So,
but the magic word is abduction.
Yes.
Well, I mean, and this is, this is a, for lack of a better term, this would be a ballsy thing for somebody to try to pull off when you're talking about them not being involved in the crime itself, but trying to extract money out of the family, without being directly involved in this. And this goes, and you said this just a little bit ago, that look, this could be the same person who perpetrated, or the same people that perpetrated the crime, at doing this as a distraction. That the FBI has deemed this. Look, this is nothing but a distraction from the actual crime that's happened. So, like Ray says, Chris, could the notes be fake, but from the real kidnappers or abductors or killers? You have to throw those in there as well, because we don't know if she was kidnapped or killed and taken out of there for an elimination. So, and Chris, you touched on that just a few minutes ago, and I would agree that is a big possibility.
Well, and I think for me, I think it comes into, there are going to be three buckets here. There's going to be the thug, bucket number one, porch guy. Bucket number two is going to be a driver, whoever that person is. And bucket number three is going to be somebody who's writing the notes. And I think if you take those three buckets, I think this is how this thing's going to play out. Because you're going to have, because you've got to go back again, and we've got to look at this. I like how you got a little refrigerator next to you, dude. That's awesome. I got to get one of those.
I like to stay hydrated.
You threw me off. I was Sorry. Like, look at Josh got a refrigerator, man. I got to grab a fridge. Anyway, so I think we're going to have three buckets here. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm way off of base, but I mean, I'm going to go with my gut instinct here on this one. And so what does that mean? It means, okay, bucket number one, that could be Kalila as well. He could be the thug on the porch. I don't know that, but I'm not going to take him off of that play, or to what Bob and I will both agree on. He could be just nothing. He jumped in the middle of this thing and like an idiot, and like these people do, it's a nothing burger.
Yeah, okay? Right.
So that means we have to find the dude on the porch. And he could just be a distraction that may know something about the dude on the porch. I don't know how those things are going to tie together yet. So then the second one is the driver. That driver had to have intimate knowledge, not only about the neighborhood, but about Miss Nancy. I will submit to you that driver of that car in this crime probably has the most knowledge outside of the note writer about Miss Nancy. Because these are the two that are probably, like Dr. Gary has described, number one and number two are probably waiters, but no, I think the number two guy, I think that guy is an apprentice to the chef. And that the chef is actually the person writing the letters. This is the person, the brains of the operation, the wizard, whatever we want to call this person. And one of the most interesting pieces of one of the press conferences that I have always stuck with in my head, and I clipped it, I just haven't played it, is Nano said, well, we don't know if we have enough for our guy or our gal. Now, that's not a mistake. When, now has he made a lot of, dumb statements? Yeah. But the type of dumb statements that you don't make is the next morning, okay, or the night before, when you've been there all day. Now, I know for a fact, because I've talked to my people, homicide got there at 2:00 in the afternoon. They pulled up at 1400 hours. And that Nanos knew that. and knows it. And some of the broadcast transmissions are starting to kind of put some of this timeline back together. And he also said at 11 o'clock at night, I'm not one to subscribe that the sheriff is this incompetent. I think he has 50 years in the business. Is he a doofus? Absolutely. Is he the Nanos effect? No question about it. But I think leakage is what played a major role here, because he specifically said, when he was asked the very first night, what time did the family get there? And he looked right at that reporter, and it's in the press conference. You can hear it as clear as day. What was the time, right, guys? 11 a.m.
Yeah.
11-ish, 11:15-ish. Okay.
And then the call to 911 was when?
Like 12:04, 12:06. I forget exactly. But it was like an hour later.
Hmm.
You don't make that kind of mistake. That's not a mistake. Because what he did the next morning was he realized, in my opinion, his PIO and everybody else came to him and said, dude, you opened your mouth and inserted your foot like really bad. He said, what do you mean? What did I say? You told the timeline at 11 a.m. I did? Yeah, you said it last night, Sheriff. Like a goof. Oh, okay. Well, what do we do? Well, let's give them a solid timeline, and it's going to be 11:56 is when the family got there in the morning. And now all of a sudden, now that we've actually talked to some of the girlfriends, it makes sense. Because the one question I wanted to know was, well, what time did you call Annie? And they don't want to talk about it. They refuse to talk about it. Well, that told me all I needed to know. I mean, no is just as good as, yeah, here's the timeline. Because what it does is it confirms for you that you're in the vein, as we used to say. You know, heroin addicts, shoot up in the vein. We have a saying, okay, we're in the vein.
That's very descriptive.
It is very descriptive because,
but it's true. Yeah, I got you.
And that means you're okay. You're now circulating through the system here. And for the sheriff to come out the next morning with his phone in his hand, and anybody can look at it, and he's holding the phone, and he goes, just a minute, I'm not going to start yet here. I've got to read the talking points for the family. I'm not real good with scripts. Okay. Well, who's sending him messages on behalf of the family? Do they have a lawyer? Do they have a team? Yeah, we know they have a security team because he was in contact with them all through the night. And he told the public that. It's in the press conferences. So that's not a mystery. What's a mystery is, what was he supposed to say? And now any good defense attorney is going to subpoena the records of the sheriff's phone.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to read what those talking points were, even if they're not involved. And their client, let's say it's another person somewhere and who's in custody. You know what a good defense attorney will do, Josh? They're going to put the sheriff up there and say, Sheriff Nanos, yeah, tell me about your career. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, isn't it true? And they're going to hit them with the 27, 37 complaints and all this other stuff. And by the way, they'll do it really one at a time. And it will be like drawn out for like 2 or 3 days. Sheriff Nanos is on the stand. Well, isn't it true you lied about this? Isn't it true you said this, but in actuality it was this? Isn't it true you beat a guy at the ICU? And they'll lay the foundation for credibility about the entire investigation. and then they'll put the homicide guys on. Well, by then, there has already been a nuclear blast in that courtroom. There is nothing worse than walking into a courtroom and knowing, and Bob knows what I'm talking about, you can see the smoke in the eyes coming out of the ears and the nose of the jury. And you walk in going, what just happened before I got here? And you put your hand up and you go through, the process. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. I do. Okay, have a seat. And you sit down and you see there's a big flame of that seat still on fire because Nanos just got off. You go, oh, that's going to leave a mark. you sit there and you adjust the mic and you grab your water, right? Oh boy, that's going to be a run. So who's left here? What's left here? You know what's left here? The big question. The big question is, for me right now, is Cameron, yeah. What's going on here? It's a kidnap for ransom. What do you mean? Is it me? Yes, sweetie. I could be you.
It could be you, yeah.
What? Why? Well, how did he know that? You see, that was one of those aha moments where even the public went, well, that was weird. That was weird.
Well, and it comes out to be even weirder now that if you believe this report that the FBI believes that these that these are fake, it will be interesting to see where that thought originated from and how long they've been operating under the assumption that this was not a kidnapping for ransom, because we talked about this yesterday with the whole Mexico connection. Nobody even talked to Mexico. Nobody had contact with them. I mean, it just never happened.
Yeah. So you connect those, you have to ask yourself, well, who created the narrative? Did the other sister, call her brother and say, Mom's missing. I think it's a kidnapping and maybe it's a ransom. I don't know. I'm just saying this out loud as if I was, hypothetically. Oh, really? Yeah. Wow. Okay. Click. Now Savannah calls and says, Cameron, what's going on? Well, I just talked to Annie and she said that you guys are, what's going on here? I think it's a kidnap for ransom. Because you just don't pull that out of the air and say, okay, here's the motive for Mom disappearing. And he's over on the East Coast. Somebody had, with intimate knowledge at the crime scene, had to share that information, a theory, because it wasn't the sheriff calling Cameron and saying, hey, or the FBI saying, hey, Cameron, yeah, your mom's been kidnapped for ransom. No, that was an inner circle conversation somewhere. Somebody with intimate knowledge. Remember the word intimacy. You know what that word means. Into me, see. That's the word intimacy. That's what it means. And so you now have to qualify that with, okay, who had intimate knowledge that this could even be a possibility? And now that these notes have come out where people are saying, at least right now, Reuters, they're fake. All right, then where'd that narrative come from?
Exactly. So did the FBI, we don't know how Reuters got this information, correct? They're citing a source?
They're citing a source based on, and the only way that this source would talk is under, to be an anonymous source. But usually, and this is just how my understanding of media works is that, you know, they have people that they're commonly in contact with. But you're right, Bob. They could be, I guess, wrong, couldn't they?
Well, let me posit this theory, and this is just a theory, so
Sure.
don't no one get overly excited about this, but could this be the task force, the FBI tickling the wire, as they like to say, in trying to get somebody to react to that? Okay. Um, and um, and I mean, even though Reuters says it's a source, an anonymous source, could that be the FBI tickling the wire and trying to get a reaction?
Yeah.
I mean, we've had a lot of activity on these notes, as everyone knows. So maybe they want to take it to another level and try and get this person to act out in some way or make some other comment or bow up and say, well, no, this is real and here's why. Boom. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
And right here, NJ says that basically what you're saying here, could the FBI trying to weed out the fakesters, which is completely possible too. You know, I was saying the other day, the guy that kept contacting TMZ and has been contacting over a dozen times, who really has just became a pain in the ass, you know, annoyance, because every day you turn on and Harvey's on there, you know, with his extra small T-shirt with his arms crossed, going, "Hey, guess what? We got another one." And
Hey, one thing I'll say for Harvey, he's in good shape. He's like 70 years
dude,
old, and let me tell you, and I'm not trying to go down a rabbit hole by
he's damn good shape.
taking us on off topic, but I appreciate that. I mean, it is really tough and I know this firsthand. I'm in the gym 5, 6 days a week, and let me tell you, it is tough to maintain muscle mass and I'm 67. It is really tough for me. So I appreciate Harvey. So that said,
I've
I'll
seen,
give him some credit there.
it's funny that it's funny you say that, because I watched a little documentary about him one time, like his morning. Dude's busy. I mean, he gets up at about 4:30 in the morning and hits the gym every morning. And
Yeah.
he's relentless about it. I mean, he's a busy guy. Now but his shirt is really small. But he's, for 76, he's in pretty good shape.
Hey, he's earned the right, I guess. I mean, I'm not into all that primping, but he's earned the right to wear a smaller shirt if he
It's a good
wants.
look.
He's
Yeah.
for 70-something-year-old guy, he's got some nice little guns on him, and I respect that.
Yeah,
So
he definitely works hard, but
yeah.
it's also annoying when every day you turn on, you know, the TV and he's on there going, "Look what we got," and you're just like, "Oh, great, here we go again." And we used to joke, you know, I go, Harvey's having somebody. I don't believe this. I'm just saying that it's as a joke. I go, yeah, somebody in TMZ wrote Harvey another note. You know, I mean, I don't think that that's the case, because I think you could get in trouble for that, couldn't you?
Well, he's got. The First Amendment offers the press a lot of leeway, as we all know, and um, I don't know if I would like to think that TMZ is not inflating this whole issue, but
Oh,
they
it's impossible for them not to. Look, TMZ, you can say whatever you want about TMZ. And I know people have called, you know, the National Enquirer, that they're nothing more than tabloids and things like that. First of all, they have excellent sources. They report very accurately most of the time, almost to the point of it's pretty disgusting how fast they report stuff. When they reported Kobe Bryant's death, and they put photos out there before his wife even knew that she was dead. You know, so it's hard for me to think that they don't conflate things, that they don't wait for anything. I'm not saying that
Well,
they make stuff up, but they are ruthless when
yeah,
it
and
comes to reporting.
I'm not accusing Harvey or TMC of making it up, but you
No,
know,
yeah, I know.
are they over promoting the situation? And I have to question whether or not they're doing that. But you know, I'm a Southern California native, and so Harvey Levin has been in the business in Los Angeles for decades, and
Big time.
um, he's been around a long time. He's very good at what he does, especially when it comes to entertainment news. But you know, I do question. I think they're getting as much mileage out of this as they can. And I guess, you know, maybe if I'm in their shoes and in
Well,
that
that's what they do.
business,
It's what they
okay,
do.
yeah, exactly. That's what they do. So I'm not going to criticize. Um, but you know, a lot of people think that um, Harvey should pay the 60,000, the one Bitcoin, whatever it's worth today, 62,000, 59,000, whatever it is today, to um, incite this latest note writer uh, to react. And I don't think that that's a good idea personally. I think that just encourages other, because I don't believe that this person is involved in the case, and
Well, he
I
said
think
the
he's,
FBI told him not to do it.
yeah, exactly, and for good reason,
Yeah.
and which is probably the same point that I'm trying to make here.
Well,
So,
we talked about that on the show last night, where
mm,
Harvey was saying, "Look, we will pay it. We'll make a documentary about it because they're going to recoup their money somehow, and that's how they do it." And that he had his own liaison to the FBI that was working
mhm.
with him on this, and the guy basically ghosted him, in his words, that he
Right.
never heard back from him, and that he said that he wasn't going to do anything without the FBI's approval. Fine, and I guess in that sense it's commendable, but it sounds like the reason that the FBI didn't want him to do it was, well, the FBI didn't believe that it was real. So why would
Well,
you do it?
the reporting that I heard, and then I heard a little bit directly from Harvey, but Harvey was saying that the FBI told him that they're working somebody, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it
You're
was
right.
something to the extent of, we're working somebody, don't do anything with this, just hold tight, and blah blah blah. I don't believe that. I don't believe that the FBI would tell Harvey Levin or anyone in the media what their investigative strategy is.
That's
And
what
now
Chris
could I
and
be
John
wrong?
said
Of
last night.
course.
Chris and
I,
John said the same exact thing.
oh, okay. I did. I listened to some of the show. In fact, I
Yeah.
made a couple comments in the chat last night, but I didn't
Yeah.
watch the whole thing.
Yeah, they
So,
said they said the same
okay,
exact thing that you're saying. They do
I'll
not
leave it
believe that.
there.
Yeah, they don't believe that. Me either, for that matter. I don't think that he has an actual liaison that's reporting to Harvey. I mean, look, they went in. He went into detail about, look. He said, look, this isn't normal for us, but we've worked with law enforcement before on some things, and I'm sure that they have. I have no doubt about that. But somebody said that he also had some new correspondence from Bonnie and Clyde as well. So who knows what's going on with them? But
Or maybe
uh,
it's Geraldo and the contents of the safe, right? So,
he's my favorite reporter because he look. You want to talk about sensationalism? How many guys go and stand on the edge of the beach when there's like a Category 4 hurricane bearing down on you? Geraldo, and his mustache just blows in the wind. He's got reporters, or he's got his guys holding on to his legs. That is top notch stuff. I got to tell you. So, Chris, where does it go from here? What happens now?
Well, I think, to Bob's point, I think the letter writer's in panic mode. I said this last Sunday on my program. I said the suspect's panicking right now, in my opinion, and you got them right where you want them. Just like, I think I think there could have been an idea from the feds to say, let's poke the bear, see what happens. But I think it would have been a lot more leakage to do that. With a person like this who's written these letters, they are so confident. You have to, and they're so narcissistic.
Yeah, right.
You have to poke at the mistakes, not the accomplishments. You have to point them. You have to point the mistakes out. Like, why would you use the word buried? So if I was the FBI, or if we were going to put messaging out to the suspect, because that's who they're trying to talk to, I would want to do bullet points about, it's kind of weird. And I wouldn't even talk to the suspect. I would talk to the public, because once you start communicating directly with the suspect, then they think they're important. And so you want to isolate that behavior. And you want to isolate it into, we'll just use Dennis Rader as an example. Remember the news, there was a lawyer writing a book at the time during the BTK, before they had captured him. And one of the counsel was, well, get the lawyer, have the news agency, Channel 4 in Wichita, interview the lawyer and only talk about the mistakes over the last 30 years that he's discovering in the book that he's writing about the BTK killer. And it wasn't more than a week or two later, they found BTK communicated back with the news agency and said, oh, by the way, I'm still here. You're going to go find a cereal box. And they went, and found a cereal box with a doll inside of it. And Fox's, one of the victims' driver's license was inside the box. And it basically said, I'm back. So what they did is they insulted his intelligence, but they did it in such a way that they didn't drip it out. They dripped it out through conversation, mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake. And in this situation, if it is a tactic of the FBI to come out and say, well, you know what, let's just poke the bear, and you put them on notice that we know, okay, well, you don't want to be talking to that bear. You want to be talking to the woods, and let the bear come up and smell where the food is, and then come to the truck and see if he can get into the truck. And so whoever this letter writer is, if they're involved, which I think they are, in my opinion, I think the ransom stuff is noise. I've said that from the beginning, but it wouldn't put it past me that within sight of a circle, the letter writer is writing the letter. So you would want to pick apart each one of those little, the verbiage within sight of the letter, And so if I was the sheriff or anybody like that, and I really wanted to get the suspect, moving into a certain direction, which, by the way, they're listening right now. So this idea, what I would do with you is let you know that the public knows who you are. And your time is almost up. So do the right thing, whatever that is. Be the first one at the door, and let the authorities know where her body is. Because ultimately that's what it's going to come down to, because the timing of this thing is getting narrower and narrower. And you probably want to take advantage of that. The public is starting to figure this out. And so it's kind of like the frog in the pot. You've you've been in cold water for 5 months. Well, guess what? The heat's on now. Somebody turned on the dial. And that dial tonight is those ransom notes that you've been depending on to stay in the cold water are no longer valuable. It's a waste of time now. All it is time. The one thing that criminals underestimate is that the statute of limitations for murder, there is none.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore, they let you sit in the cold water until they start turning on the flame. And when that starts happening in of itself, it's usually the first frog that tries to jump out of the cold water gets the best deal. However, if everybody wants to sit in the pot together, all the FBI and all the sheriffs and the law enforcement authorities are going to just keep adding frogs. And once there's 3 frogs in the same pot, well, guess what happens to the water? It starts to dissipate and it starts to evaporate rapidly. And so that means you're left to stick to the bottom of the pot. And you can't move at that point when your legs are stuck to the bottom of the pot. You can't get the upper leverage. And so right now, while you have water, use it to your advantage. Water helps you float to the top and get you over. Use that to your advantage. And let the other 2 frogs, when they're put in, figure themselves out. And I think at some point they are going to get close. I don't know. I don't have a statistical number, but I've said this, I've said it for 5 months now. Like Bob, this is not a complicated case. If you follow the bouncing ball and you follow it clearly, it's going to be either a murder for hire or an elimination murder like Dr. Gary Baccato talked about. And it's going to be a chef and a couple of waiters, or maybe a chef. I'll introduce an apprentice tonight and a waiter. I don't think it's going to be that much more complicated than that, in my opinion. I hope I'm wrong. I will always use that as a caveat. But at this point, we had too many gaps in the very beginning. And so we'll see how it unfolds. I think it's cooking up, to use the analogy of a frog in a pot.
By the way, frog legs are disgusting.
Do they really jump out of the pan? That's what I want to know.
They try, right, Bob? I mean,
So
go ahead.
let me just bring up one more point,
Please
Josh,
do.
if I may.
Of course.
Going back to the message from Reuters. So they use the terminology that the notes are, quote, fake. They use the word fake. Am I right?
Let me make sure.
Or is that just a translation terminology?
So they're deemed bogus.
Okay.
3 kidnappings of sirs.
I don't
Okay.
think they said bogus, though.
Investigators to be fake communications.
Okay. So to me, fake is pretty strong word to use in addressing these notes. And so why didn't Reuters say, the FBI is not so confident that there's any validity to these notes, or something like that, rather than an in your face, these notes are fake. Okay. Now, maybe nothing, but it just, a light came off in my head or came on in my head when I heard the word fake, and that tends to make me believe that perhaps that this is a tickle the wire situation, and trying to get a reaction from whomever, whether it's the latest note writer that's communicating with TMZ or somebody else, or somebody not related to the notes at all, and they're trying to get some type of reaction from the persons responsible for this abduction. Okay. And I know that's pretty general, but I just have to wonder about that. And because once again, that is a very pointed, very direct, strong word for anyone to use, the whether it's the FBI or a source from the FBI or even for Reuters. I doubt Reuters would use that word on their own. Now, I
Yeah,
could
well,
be wrong.
I agree with that. I think, and I also,
Yeah.
the more I think about this, I don't think it's happenstance that the FBI has spoken to Reuters today, or that the report came out today. I think that there was a legitimate reason that they picked Reuters, and the more that you think about it, that this could be a tactical maneuver by the FBI, whether they
Right.
believe this is fake, real, or whatever. And to Chris's point, which I think is a good point, and I think you might agree that the people, whoever wrote this note, somebody wrote the note. That somebody wrote this note. It didn't just appear out of nowhere,
Mm-hmm.
and it would be, other than Kalala or Kalala or whatever his name is, just jumping in the middle of this, it would be such a huge risk to put your name out there and try to extort money from the family legitimately if you weren't trying to distract from something. And the reason that this may have came out today is, and Chris, you're right, and Bob as well, they're trying to strip everything away from these people. They're trying to suck the air out of the investigation, meaning, look, we've let this go on long enough. Let's try to take it back and strip it down to the fundamentals, that this isn't some huge conspiracy ransom hoax gone wrong, and that there are these mastermind criminals sitting out there playing the FBI, playing Pima County, playing the public. In fact, they're full of it, and we're telling Reuters, and Reuters is going to tell the world. And like Chris said, hey, now we're terrified. Go ahead.
And I want to dovetail into what Bob just said, because I agree with him, and I'm going to take this one step further into post-incident behavior. I think they already had a planned and a pre-planned dump site. It would not surprise me if there was already a hole dug, and that once they had her, immediately they took her and she was done. And she's buried in the desert. And by the way, in my opinion, she's not too far away.
I would agree with that as well. And you guys who have investigated these kind of crimes, and somebody that, I've followed, hundreds of cases, most people never are that far away.
Yeah, that makes the most sense. So I agree completely.
And
she's not very far.
And so with that, when we talk about the car again, if they took the air filter in that car, then they have the pollen of the location where that car's been. Forget, while everybody's talking about the data in the car tearing it apart for 40 days, it's the air filter that can actually seal the deal. And when you take that air filter out and you put it in a baggie, and then you get a botanist to take a look at the pollens, the type of air that filter has captured in around a geographic region. Well, if you can get that And then you can reverse engineer that into, somebody who knows a lot, like a botanist, about where would we find this pollen? Well, that would be, indigenous to this type of plant vegetation. And in this area in Arizona, that would be consistent with this type of region. And so we don't know behind the scenes if they've got cadaver dogs out in certain areas and they're out searching because they may have found something in the air filters within inside of that vehicle they impounded. So they're not only collecting the telemetrics data, they're also collecting the forensics data, the forensic science data, such as, airborne evidence. Okay. And I had a body dump like that. And we did just that.
I've seen this in other cases where the mud that was stuck in the tires was, they narrowed down a kill site from mud in the tires because it was like clay mud that wasn't from the area that the person was from. Also, I've seen it where leaves as well that ended up inside of a car, just a couple leaves that they're like, these leaves aren't native to here, they're native to there, and they get closer in that sense too. I mean, it's really amazing stuff, which is it's also gumshoe police work, but you have to be very, detailed.
You're absolutely right, Josh, and that's why it was important for Pima County detectives, their crime scene detectives, and or the FBI to collect the debris left by Porch Guy, the weeds that he grabbed off the porch or just outside the porch and left deposited for the news media to see, next to the math that we've talked about a million times.
Son of a gun.
That's why those details are important. And so you make a very, very good point. And
Bob, just as we were talking about this, Daily Mail has just now, within the last few minutes, dropped their report, and the title is Ransom Notes in Nancy Guthrie's case deemed to be, in all capital letters, fake.
Okay, so are they just parroting the Reuters report?
Yes, that's what's
Okay.
So that's what's happening. But so, and you know this, I don't have to explain, but I'll explain it sort of to the audience. Reuters drops this, then what happens is Daily Mail is going to have to do their due diligence, and they're reaching out to their sources. Can we corroborate that this is happening? A lot of the times they just go off of sort of what Reuters is doing, but it took them a few hours to pick up on it.
When we get up in the morning, everybody
news
site is around the Western world is gonna be reporting on this. So
it's a
big and that word fake will be in every report.
Yeah,
fake
that from the wire.
Yeah.
Yep, and they specifically chose to make the word fake in all capital, just the only word that's in all capital letters. And Daily Mail, who's done some writing up of people on this this panel right here, that pretty decent little news.
So let's have a paradigm shift for a moment. Let's think out of the box. A paradigm shift.
Okay.
You're the suspect, and 2 hours ago you just saw everything you've been trying to do didn't work. What's your next move?
Well, are you the chef or the waiter or the busboy? And that depends, so the next move depends on what your role in this thing is. I'll tell you what, if I'm the busboy or the waiter, I'm going to get the first bite of the apple. That's what I'm going to do. And I hope they're watching and listening, because that's what they need to do.
because right now, if the phones are lit, that's going to be interesting. Do you feel trapped? To Bob's point, if you feel trapped, now is the time. Because you don't know. If you pick up the phone and say they know, well, guess what? You don't know. I don't know. But I bet you feel trapped. Time to make a decision. Time to put this, time to let it go.
Yahoo.com is now reporting exclusive FBI determines Nancy Guthrie's kidnapping notes to be fakes. So you're right. I mean, this is just one right after
Yeah,
the
they're all
other.
going to regardate the Reuters story.
And
Sure.
it'll be around for a few days now, and you know,
This is a volcano erupting.
Yeah.
but that's why
Killer
this.
with an Iki.
But
So I'm
that's
going to get
why-
my so Josh and Chris, I'm going to get my lime green tennis visor out and polish it up, and I'll have it on for the next show. How's that sound?
Josh
think
has
we're-
one. You have a
I don't
visor,
have the
don't
line.
you?
No, I don't have, but I do. Yeah. Hold on. Let me see here.
Yeah, you got put it on. We gotta get you got.
Hold on.
This is awesome. There you go.
Oh, look at that.
This is classic. There you go. Yeah, you need some glasses.
I have some somewhere, but
Yeah.
I can't find them. But anyway, I believe we're on tomorrow, right, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and Kilauea Iki is has just Madame Pile is not happy tonight. She is not happy, and the lava is flowing. You probably want to get ahead of that lava curve because it's going to get really hot, as they say. I remember one time. I have a suspect, and the guy sitting there, and he goes, "Do you really think I did it, man?" And I said, "You know what? I don't know. Could you do me a favor?" He goes, "What's that, sir?" I said, "Can you call me tomorrow?" He goes, "What?" I said, "Can you call me tomorrow when you're feeling a little better? But right now, you're free to go." Man, I bought rent in that guy's head for like 12 hours.
He loved it.
Went out and got a warrant, came back, hooked him up. And that's how we started after Miranda. And he just spun. And
Sang
just
like a bird.
Oh, everything we wanted to know and more. And with a 12 pack.
Let me read this here. Today, monks determined from a cactus. I haven't watched his video yet, but I do check out all amongst the stuff. Cactus, column leaning and not leaning. The porch guy photos that the porch guy was there on 2 different nights. Yeah, I mean, I've always thought that too. Monks has a good eye for stuff, and artists are
He's great.
pretty good with that kind of stuff. So I will be sure to check that out. And it says I made it clear where I stand, and it's fine. I get deputized. Any guys up for it, Chris? YouTube kind
Wait
though.
a Mikey.
What's up, Mikey? Good to see you. Is FBI guiding Savannah Guthrie on her words and actions, videos, exaggerated hugs? I don't know. I mean, any thoughts there?
I don't think so at this point.
Yeah.
I
agree
think
with that.
I think when they made the videos, I think there's a good chance that they had some input when the family was together. Those what would they do 3 as a family, 3 or 4 videos as a family talking directly to the abductors. I think I think the BAU had some input, whether they scripted it for him or not. I don't know. Initially, I thought maybe they scripted it, but
Yeah, but
um,
I wonder how fast, and that begs the question again, like how fast did they come to determine that these were fake communications? I mean, at some point, it seems like they were operating under the assumption that they might have been
well,
legit.
yeah, I mean, they have to, until you prove that they're not um, real, then yeah, I mean, you act as if they're. You got to follow up on every lead, that basic concept in investigations.
Sure,
So,
sure.
but yeah, so I don't think right now that they're advising Savannah or any of the other family members on what to say. I just,
Probably not now.
yeah.
Yeah. Have any of you looked into the DJ Mojito and the fetish balls? No, I have not. Music.
Okay, so what are fetish balls? I
I
have to
don't.
ask. I'm sorry. Maybe I shouldn't ask, but I have to. What are fetish balls?
Fetish ball. I don't. Maybe it's a music venue that DC and T played music at. I don't know what fetish
They're
balls.
a
Sounds like
Christian
some
street.
sounds like something from a Rodney Dangerfield joke.
Fetish balls.
Sweaty balls
Sweaty balls.
Hey, I get no respect
from
here with the
Saturday
fetish
Night Live,
balls.
I'll never forget
the
sweaty.
NPR. What the heck? Where'd that come from? Oh, now
guess-
that's funny right there. I don't care who you are. That's funny right there.
So this says, do you think authorities are looking into family members' finances closely? I don't know if they have, but I think that they probably. I mean, you would have to, right? I think that's all part of an investigation. Sweaty balls. As much as people want to say, you don't want to. You don't want to say anything bad about the family or anything, and that's not exactly what we're trying to do here. But you do have to investigate them. Obviously, if they're investigating their car, you think they would take a look at their finances as well. So, would you guys agree with that? I think everything has to be investigated.
Yeah.
I think everything is still on the radar. They haven't taken their eye off the ball on anything.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so either.
There's Sarah's eyes again. She's funny. I love this.
Yeah, I know. Christopher Nanos drove the narrative and said it was from family. Nanos gave up crime scene way early. Like he gave it up like 4 times, by the way. Nanos prevented searches. Nanos caused chaos with streamers. I'm suspicious of him. Yeah, I don't necessarily think that he's involved. I think that he's just, I've said this before. I'll say it again. I think that he thought that he was going to solve this case and he was going to be he was going to be reelected. He was going to get a new Corvette. I don't know about the Corvette. I'm just saying that he was going to stand up, this is my white Bronco moment, basically. And it seems to have bitten him completely in the ass several times over.
Well, before we leave that point, Josh, I know I've said this a million times. Chris has repeated it, but really, if you stop and think about it, it's the Nanos effect on this case. And we keep talking about everything that Nanos does, and his actions and his behavior are affecting this case. And we all heard about the Ferguson effect, that Heather McDonough coined that phrase, and this is the equivalent to the Guthrie case. It's the Nanos effect.
Well, this is going to be you're going to be the coiner of this term.
Well, but I'm stealing it from the great Heather McDonough, and so I'll give her credit. But and it really is. When this all gets solved and we end up in court, it's going to be, unfortunately, it is going to be very revealing exactly what what effect Nanos had on this case, and it's not going to be good, in my opinion.
I agree with you there. Absolutely flummoxed. 2 notes fake. Guessing we don't know where the notes originated from. Maybe from perp as distraction, which it's a great point, and something that was discussed as well. Is that ruled out? I don't think anything like that has been ruled out. Looking more like purpose, someone who knew Nancy Guthrie in a personal capacity. I think that at some point there is some sort of, in my opinion, and I'm only speaking for myself here, but there's a nexus somehow to her that this person has crossed her path before, or that they run in a family circle, a friend circle. It's just, it would only make sense. Now, I'm not saying that that's 100% or anything like that, but look, everything right now, like Chris coined this term, and it's followed you everywhere from where it came from the Summer Wells case. Remember what the term is?
No. I've been called so many terms.
No. This is your term. This is your.
Can't keep up with them.
It's not a term.
Join the club, Chris.
It's not a term that people call you. It's a term that you use.
Oh, okay.
And it started, I believe, in the Summer Wells case,
which is
haven't left the house.
Oh yeah.
Did that start in the Summer Wells case?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it started years ago, but yeah.
I mean, publicly.
Yeah. I haven't left the house.
Yep. You haven't left the house. And you've said that on several cases, and it makes sense. I mean,
and not my first rodeo.
Exactly right. Let's see. Chris, after 4 months of research, I've only found one bite light manufacturer that matches the light and fits the Perps light. A Pilot supply company has it. I ordered one. Should I email you? It's interesting.
I feel free to keep it, but just email me the manufacturer. I'd love to see a picture of it. But thank you so much. And by the way, for just real fast, while somebody brings that up, I literally get like 500, 600 emails a day. It is impossible for me to read every single email. So
I'll stop sending you so many. Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I don't want,
I never email
because I value everybody's opinion. I just don't want people thinking that I'm being a soch over here, that, I'm not paying attention to them. That's not it at all. I do read them. I tried to get through all of them. It takes me like a week to get through all of them, but I do see your messages. So thank you.
Yeah, it can, especially with the channel of your size, and it's a wonderful feeling knowing that people, reach out to you and things like that, that they're watching and listening. Senior essay is unusual, but not out of the question. I don't know if it is unusual. Would you say it's unusual?
Senior. Go ahead, Bob.
No, well, no. I mean, I would not say it's unusual. Gary would have a lot to say about this, but go ahead, Chris. You probably have a lot to say about it as well.
That I don't see this one as being that in this scenario, because most of the time somebody that is attacked at that age is attacked in the house and they're left there.
Mm-hmm.
To take them out of the house was kind of the red flag for all of us that said, well, wait a minute, again, we go back to these anomalies. These are things that it is so rare that there aren't even statistics for it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how rare it is.
Yeah.
And so now, had he murdered her in the house after essaying her and then taking her out, like others have done, that's not a problem. Okay. But you're going to have evidence of that viciousness and that violence inside of that home. And in this particular circumstance, what did we have? We had evidence from, the notes, allegedly. The watch was in this position. Now, and by the way, all of that now comes into question. Who presented that information with inside of those letters? Again, that raises more bouncing balls. I know everybody's like, please stop saying that. That raises
More
more
bouncing, sweaty
fetishes.
balls.
Yeah, it raises more problems. The fact that those types of identity situations, i.e., the torn down light, the Apple Watch out of place, the pajamas, all of these things that are presented into the public narrative now become suspicious in nature because they're in these fake notes. And so that just kind of tightens,
I just took that out of Otis's mouth.
well, there you go.
He's sorry.
And Buddy's sound asleep next to me. That tightens the narrative here. And well, wait a minute. Because remember, everybody before these notes, the notes had to be real in order for a suspect, a stranger, to be real. They have to be real. But now that the FBI is allegedly reporting they're fake, well, then that calls into question, well, then who would have known about the Apple Watch to put it into a fake note?
That's a great point, too.
Who would have known about, where the light was torn off to put it in a fake note? Who would have had that intimate knowledge about these items that were discovered at the crime scene?
That's a great point.
Again, things start to narrow down.
Tickle, tickle.
Yep. I mean, it is. Yeah, they did pay. They did pay a wallet. Tickle, tickle, sweaty balls.
That was funny. I don't care who you are.
That was pretty good. Is it possible the note saying she died is real because the people who took her didn't want fake people to get money?
Well,
yeah, I don't know.
Almost anything is possible at this point, but
yeah,
not likely.
Not likely. But I do believe that the fact that I still believe that she is deceased, unfortunately, and I think that she probably died pretty early on, if not that night that she went missing. Because it just certainly does not seem like it was a kidnapping for ransom at all. And it's never seemed that way because there was no proof of life. Once again, people who kidnap people for money, they're in the business of keeping those people alive, providing they have a quid pro quo, that there is a good faith system on their end. Like, hey, yeah, we're good for this. Your family member or whoever, your loved one's alive. Here's proof of that. Let's get this over with, because the longer it goes on, the more exposure. So
exactly.
It just never felt that way.
Look at the timing of these notes as they unfolded. The timing of these notes as they unfolded were within 48 hours of her abduction. All right. So it's almost like, okay, press play. Notes out. Okay. Where's it going? Boom. It didn't go to KVOA, which is an NBC affiliate where Savannah worked. That was her first TV station she worked at. Well, if you want to torture Savannah, why wouldn't you send it to the very first place she ever worked at? And that never happened. So that's always been an anomaly again for me in my head. And now it's coming to fruition, though. And then the second piece of that puzzle is, hey, inside of these notes, allegedly, are the things that we're talking about. They knew the placement of the watch. They knew that the light was off. The doors were propped open. Okay. Well, I don't know if any of the notes say that. Let's just use the two pieces of that puzzle: the watch and the light. Okay. Those are so weird.
So
that even today, earlier before this came out, there was conversation about, well, they knew the watch was on the floor. That intricate detail like that is what we would call unnecessary information. because it has no value if the notes are fake. It has a lot of value, or excuse me, it has a lot of value if the notes are fake. It has no value if the notes are real. Because at the time they're looking for Nancy Guthrie alive, they're asking for proof of life, but the suspect is unable to provide that. So that in of itself then becomes extremely problematic for the suspect to manage the narrative. And so now you have to say, okay, well, where'd the narrative originate and who is originating the narrative? Where does it come from? And you have no other choice but to go back and stay at the house as an investigator. You have no other choice. You can't be chasing Mexico. You can't be chasing wrench of theories. And, you can't be chasing the two teenagers, in the neighborhood who, or the Brazilian, South American gangs, or the
random burglar,
the random burglars, or the person that just wants to suffer, make Savannah suffer, through these notes. Okay. You can't go out there because you got to stay right where the evidence is telling you to stay.
Yeah.
And the evidence that's telling you to stay there is there's no data point how they got in the house that morning. There's no data point that says what's in the car. Is it the air filters? Is it the telemetrics data? There's no data point for what's in the phones, i.e. the ICAC UFED. There's no data point for why are they spending hours in the house over there in the middle of the night, 10 o'clock at night, and then coming out with bags of evidence. There's no data points for that. So you have to say, okay, well, that has value. That has value. And why?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Right. So while people are chasing all this over here, I've been standing at the front porch going, what if he had a way to get in?
Well, how dare you insinuate that evidence points to people that might be around her?
I hope I'm wrong. I'm not accusing anybody of anything.
I understand what you're saying.
I'm just saying, you know what? That's weird. and as long as it's weird, and now you start getting stuff like this, we are back at square one today. Now that the FBI has come out and said, hey, by the way, I need to tell you the notes are they're all fake. Okay, what do you have left? What's left?
Right. You have the car being seized and the evidence taken out of that house.
Cheers.
Oh, by the way, Bob, is it just me or does that haunt anybody else?
Absolutely.
It's like, it's one of the,
it's crazy.
It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. And that look, I've never processed a scene ever, but if they said, hey, you got to fill in today for these guys, I'd go, okay, well, there's blood. Right? You're going to want to pick up that mat at some point and bag it.
Well, and not to belabor all this because we've hashed out this so many times, but they left the Nest camera bracket on for how long? Weeks and weeks and weeks, knowing that porch guy had a mouth light, and that he had to have touched the Nest camera bracket to remove the Nest camera. So his DNA, you would think, would be on the bracket, and
the nanos
left
effect.
It on.
The nanos effect.
The
right
nanos
here.
effect.
That's
yeah.
Right.
I mean,
Paige
if everything
says,
was going great, Nanos would be claiming credit for it. So
big time. And now
a lot of things are going wrong, and Nanos has to take credit for that as well. Hence the Nanos effect.
And we're going to wrap it up here 1 second. Wouldn't the person who sent the first note on Apple Watch have to be Ellie or the family if the public didn't have any info on them? Look, I mean, you said it. I didn't. I don't know. I don't know where that would come from. It's very odd.
I think there's another piece of the story here that where nobody's talking about yet, and we need to talk about it in the public. They had to have a plan, whoever these people are, whoever they are. They had to have a plan where to put her.
Mhm.
And it had to be rapid. Because when they got her out of that house, now they have a management problem, a containment problem, i.e. a security problem. You have to maintain, secure, and manage an 84-year-old woman with a heart issue, who the very first day in the very first press conference, when they had the very first conference, one of the very first things the sheriff said is she needs her medication or she could die. Now, that narrative was pushed rapidly into the environment in conversation, meaning that was a critical statement to make to the public. But here's the irony of that now. The sheriff wasn't talking to the suspects. He was talking to the public about, if you see her, call us. She has these medical issues. We've checked the hospital. He's already checked the hospitals by then. So what he's doing is projecting this idea that she could die or is dead. And so for me, that made me think, and it still makes me think right away, there's a hole out there already dug for her.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's completely
All
possible.
they did was go from point A to point Z and dropped her into this location. So as an investigator, I would start looking for purchasing of shovels, items in that, even though it's a hard terrain, you have all kinds of time to prepare to dump a body, especially if those photographs are on 2 separate nights within 30 days of each other. That's a long time to dig a hole.
Yeah, and right here, and once again, when we talk about everything, and I do come back to this a lot, and it's a terrible thought, and this is what we're talking about here. But I keep thinking of poor Nancy and what she went through.
Mhm. We're all thinking about that.
Horrific.
Yeah,
Just
of course.
whoever did this, whoever's responsible for this, has put this 84-year-old woman, by all accounts, a sweet lady who goes to church, loves her family, did what she could after her husband passed away and raised her children the best that she could. And she went through something tragic.
And tormented the family, which could be part of the motive.
Sure.
Yeah. You know what's going to be really great evidence, Josh? A barcode.
On.
Just think, after Brian Koberger was captured, they released evidence of him walking into Costco
Oh yeah, there you go.
as if he was just shopping for everyday items after slaughtering 4 people. I would submit there's probably going to be film of everyday backpacks being purchased, and that credit cards and barcodes will connect those dots, including even every click on every laptop and every search parameter.
Yep. That's a good point. Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Chris.
No, you're fine.
Th- that's a good point, and I've heard a lot of pundits lamenting that, well, the FBI didn't find anything at Walmart. Well, we don't know that. They might
That's
have
that's true. Good point.
they might have a ton of information, and of course they're not going to leak it to us, nor should they. And I'm glad that they haven't. I
Amen.
hope they have all that information. And I would say that there is a very, very good chance that they do already. And not just that. I mean, they've got a ton of information. I also believe they have additional footage from that front door camera and perhaps cameras within the home and
Great.
other cameras around the house that they haven't told us about, maybe even from a neighbor's home that they haven't told us about, and they shouldn't tell us about these things.
No
Okay.
question.
So, um, I think that they have a significant amount of evidence, and I think that will ring true, and we'll all know it at some point.
Yeah, they put.
Uh,
Remember, don't ever forget they put Alex at the fire pit in the Lori Vallow case.
yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right. Um, wow. Well, I mean, this was a great show, great discussion. I thank you guys so much for coming on. Chris, tomorrow,
Josh, yes,
what are we doing?
we're still doing both of you
Wrong.
guys. We've got a special guest coming. We're still going to talk about the electronic side of this thing and the Bitcoin side of this game and how it may or may not have played into it. And the guest is going to be a professor from SMU, and he just happens to be my brother.
Oh, that's cool.
And he's a
Does
pretty
he look
smart
like?
dude.
Does he look like you?
Oh heck no, we don't look anything alike.
You're way
He's-
better looking.
He's 7 years older than me, but he is he was a data scientist for Google, and then he was
okay.
he has he's a really smart dude. Let me put it to you
Can't
that
wait.
way. Yeah, you're going to have fun, and the audience is going to have fun tomorrow. And he's running for office, by the way, in the state legislators. He's running for a seat in Texas, in Dallas. So I called him today and I said, "Look, tell me about this Bitcoin stuff." And he teaches data mining. This is right in his lane.
We got Dallas audience members. We
There you go.
get called by them all the time. They're very very active on the show. Very friendly. Love to call. And
He's a cool dude, and he's very down to earth. I don't have to call him professor or doctor or anything. So
that's good.
you're going to like him. You guys will have fun, and I hope you guys will pepper him with questions because he'll have the answers.
And I'm going to, and as we get out of here, I'm going to quote my good friend's favorite quote, and that I never thought that I would, but it seems to play up here in a major way. And I hate that I'm going to do this, but I'm going to quote Sherlock Holmes.
Where's Gary when we need him?
Nobody tell him I said this, but once you eliminate the
He'll watch
impossible,
this.
once you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, how improbable, must be the truth. And that seems to bode well and ring true in this situation tonight, now that some things are being stripped away. But guys, thank you so much. Bob, I appreciate you coming on such short notice. Chris, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I can't wait for tomorrow. I look forward to it.
Yep. We'll
Thanks,
see you guys
Josh.
tomorrow.
Good
Thanks.
to
All
be
right,
with
guys.
you guys.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Bob.
Good night. Good night. There it was. Don't tell Dr. Gary I said that. None of you. What a fantastic show. And thank you guys so much for being here. We will catch you tomorrow. Make sure to hit that notification bell. Also, once again, on the interview room tonight, Karen McDonough and Anjanette Levy did a fantastic show. Make sure to check them out as well. They did such a great job. And we just thank you guys so much for being here. This was one of my, I really enjoyed this show. the conversation was so good and well structured. It was awesome. So give me 1 second here. That's funny. I'm not showing that. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.